The sign-in sheet just arrived, so if you all could make your way back and sign in while you're grabbing food from Tanampa. Compliments of Chelsea. And pick up a handout. You can get an agenda and sign in on the table at the door.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. As you guys come in, please sign in on the sign-in sheet up front and take an agenda if you need one. Welcome, everyone. Please sign in the sign-in sheet in the back if you haven't already. And if we don't have your email on file, provide your email address. All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, folks. We'll start with introductions. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Serafina Eberhardt. I'm with the Institute for Public Strategies, this wonderful logo on my shirt. We are a public health nonprofit. We've been around 30 plus years, and what we do is public health work. We're contracted by the County of San Diego to do substance misuse prevention work in the East region specifically. And how IPS likes to approach their work is what we consider at upstream prevention at a community organizing level. So groups such as yourself is part of how we do our work. So organizing community members, getting you guys engaged, giving you the technical assistance and support to do the work to revitalize your Broadway. And then we have our co-chairs. We have Chelsea, we have Manola, we have Stan, Jack is in the back, and then is Kat here? All right, we have a new co-chair, Kat. When she gets here, we'll make sure to introduce her to you guys. With that being said, I will go ahead and invite Sandag up to start. Oh, yes, Ann. What do you want to do?
With you mean just about
Bathrooms.
where things are? Is that what you mean? Okay, so welcome everybody. If you haven't signed in, please try to do that before you leave. There's also food in the back, compliments of Chelsea. She likes to purchase from a local restaurant each month and give you a little sample so you can say, hey, I've never been there, but that was really good. So this is from Tanampa, which is right around the corner next to Lemon Grove Thai. So enjoy. There's also snacks for a small donation in the back if you're thirsty, want something to eat. A QR code on the box. The mugs on the wall are for our neighborhood supporters. Anybody that wants to support, help keep our doors open at this little event center. Make a donation. I'll give you acrylic markers. You can design your mug and put your name up and be one of our regulars. Down the hallway, there's also a water fountain, filtered and chilled. And then around the back, keep going down the hallway. It's not a very big place. You can't get lost. If you're outside, you've gone too far. But the restroom is on the left right before you go outside. And we'll show you a couple flyers afterwards of some things that are going on this week and this weekend, but we'll do that at the end. Anything else? Did I miss? Okay.
And that reminds me, before I bring Sandag up, there's also event slips in the back if you have something that a group that you're a part of or know kind of things that are going on in Lemon Grove that you want shared out. Please fill out the event slip, and we'll be sure to put that out via email to all of our email list. So without further ado, here's Sandag.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's so nice to be here. I'm Paula Zamudio. I'm the project manager for the State Route 94 Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan. I'm going to call it a CMCP from here on out, just because that's a mouthful. And bear with me. I'm trying to not totally read off my notes, but I want to have access to them. So if we could, I've got a few slides to share. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Ruby Morales, Rachel Forseth. You're going to hear from all three of us. We are, of course, going to talk about our project, which is the State Route 94 Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor. If you could, next slide. Yep. We have a little, quite a bit to get through, but we're going to try to make it as interesting as possible, and we definitely want to hear from you. We'll sort of go high level, what is the regional plan, and then narrow down our focus to talk about comprehensive multimodal corridor programs, plans, and then talk about our project, and then we want to hear from you. So if we could go to the next slide. There you go. Yep, the map. The next one, the map. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Some of you might be familiar with the regional plan process. It's one of the most important things that Sandag does as an agency. Here you can see the map of the final 2025 regional plan network. There's a lot happening. I'll give a quick plug for, we've got this great data viewer on the Sandag website where you could drill down and look at every project and the specific details. So if you just do a quick search for regional plan data viewer on the Sandag website, you can find it. What is the regional plan? It is required. It's something that Sandag has to update every 4 years. We work closely with the 18 cities in the county, as well as our state and regional partners. The plan really serves as a blueprint to show how our region's going to grow and how people are going to be moving around looking out to 2050. So really looking to the future. The plan uses a data-driven approach, so looking at all the data that we possibly can to identify what transportation projects that we'll need to help people really just get around in the region. Like I said, it is required. The projects that are included in the plan have to meet federal air quality standards and state requirements to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled. So then if we could go 2 more slides. Narrowing our focus a little bit to comprehensive multimodal corridor plans. Here you can see a map. All these funny shapes look at different corridors in our region, and of course the one that we're talking about is the blue along the 94. First and foremost, these are always joint efforts with Caltrans District 11 here in our region. Like a regional plan, they're data-driven. They are meant to reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. They ultimately come up with a set of solutions, projects. I really like the analogy of a wish list. So unlike a regional plan, which is financially constrained, in a regional plan you have to show where are all the dollars coming from to pay for every single project. You don't have to do that in a CMCP. So we can come here tonight and say, what projects do you need? And we can put everything into this CMCP. The really nice thing about a CMCP, besides the fact that it's not financially constrained, is that, skipping around on my notes here, essentially, ultimately, a CMCP is going to help people move around better within a corridor. Okay, so if we could go here, again, hopefully putting it all together. The CMCP is represented by the cover with the yellow bar on top. So a CMCP takes into account many different plans and efforts that are happening. So here in the city of Lemon Grove, there are probably many plans, many projects. A CMCP is looking at that. We're looking holistically at the corridor, right? Because Lemon Grove has lots of things happening. City of San Diego has lots of things happening. La Mesa, the county. So we're able to put all of those things together. We're not starting from scratch. We're saying here are the things that we know and the things that are being worked on and what's missing. Where can we fill in some of those gaps? And then, sorry, if you could go back. So it takes many plans into consideration, and then you get a CMCP. It has to get approved. This teal box represents funding, so you're not going to get funding for an entire plan. You're typically going to get funding for individual projects and then individual phases of projects. Once you get some funding, it goes in the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, which is that purple cover there. That's a 5-year, multi-billion-dollar. Where's that note? I'm going to say it wrong. It's a 5-year, multi-billion-dollar program of major transportation projects that have secured some type of funding. So from there, like I mentioned, every phase of a project requires multiple different pots of funding. So hopefully this just illustrates, we're starting with an idea. We have this wish list. We're putting everything into the CMCP. And then this is the process for getting to the point where you have construction. So you've got to go through environmental, that needs funding. Design, that needs funding. Construction, that's going to need funding. It's all separate phases. So again, hopefully just illustrates how we go from an idea to a project. Yes, thank you. I won't spend a lot of time on this one. These are just the different phases of the project. Right now, we're like in the blue, moving into the purple. So what is the corridor that we're looking at? Who are we talking about? What do the demographics look like? What are the, what's the infrastructure that's on the ground? We're here today to talk about performance gaps, like what's missing, what things do we need? And then we'll go and we'll put together solutions. So here's this whole CMCP. Here's all the projects that folks have told us. And then ultimately you get that final product. That's that teal box. And we could go. I like this slide. It just shows all the different things we have to take into consideration for a CMCP. We're not just talking about a highway. We're talking about transit, goods movement, which is big trucks that are on the road, flexible fleets, which are things like micro transit, ride-hailing options, intelligent transportation solutions. This technology could be things like timed lights on the streets. So all that to say, the CMCP will take all this into account and is going to come up with a keyword here being a complementary list of projects. So nothing's going to compete with each other. It's all going to flow. Thank you. Okay, so then getting into our project, we could go to the next slide. I'll start by saying this list is just a representation of the communities along the corridor. It's not meant to include every single community. We just wanted to put a sample up there. Of course, Lemon Grove is up there. The project starts on the western end where the 94 begins in downtown San Diego, and it continues east through the many City of San Diego communities into Lemon Grove, La Mesa, the County of San Diego. It ends on the eastern end at Hamul Indian Village. Generally, we're talking about a 2-mile buffer north and south of the State Route 94. And then you can see on this map, there's sort of like the bold project area line, and then outside of it, there's a lighter blue. That's just the complete census tract. So we are looking and proposing projects in the study area, which is that blue outline. And then the data that Ruby's going to share here shortly is looking at the entire blue area because we want to be consistent and use the complete census tract. Don't have to tell anybody here how important the 94 corridor is. It touches many employment centers, services, schools, lots of north-south connections. We're not just talking about east and west. Lots of different modes of traveling, like I mentioned in the slide before, the biking, the walking, the transit, the highway, of course. I do want to just point out, we're not starting from scratch. We recognize, I mean, many of you maybe weighed in on our regional plan process. We're looking at what folks have said in 2021, in 2025, as far as like what are the needs in this community. We're looking at past studies and what's been documented there. So again, we're not starting from scratch. We know a lot of work is happening, has happened, and we want to take that into consideration. These are our goals. Ultimately, we want to have a set of safe, sustainable, equitable transportation solutions for everyone who's using the corridor. Go to the next slide. And then a high-level timeline of our project. We're right in between, I would say, the first two arrows. So what are the existing conditions? What is the data showing us? What have we already heard? We're having meetings with the various cities, including Lemon Grove, community planning groups, are already hearing things from them. And like I said, not starting from scratch, having a foundation of what we've heard for other efforts. We will, we're getting community input right now. Part of the reason why we're here today, we have a survey that's open. Rachel's gonna talk about it a little bit more through the end of the month. Then once we gather all that information, we'll move into developing like what are the transportation projects. We'll come back out later this year and say, okay, did we get it right? Did we hear everything? Here's the list of projects. And then we expect to have this effort completed 2027, like spring 2027. Okay, that was a lot. Now Ruby, like I said, is gonna talk through what is the data showing us, what have we already heard.
Try to move out the way so you guys can see the full screen. So hi everyone, I'm going to be going over really quickly some really high level takeaways from our existing conditions analysis. And this analysis is really important because it helps us make decisions on real conditions instead of assumptions for the corridor. So next slide, please. So we looked at demographic and employment data, and overall we can expect to see continued growth in the corridor. Something notable to us is the increase in the senior population for this corridor from 14% to 19% by 2035. And this is important because we know that older adults take more varied forms of transportation in general. So when we're developing transportation solutions, all these existing condition data is important for us to keep in mind. Next slide. So the public transit that serves this corridor, we have 3 trolley lines. We have the orange line, the blue line, and the green line. And the orange line by far has the highest weekly boardings, more than double the blue line. We also have 32 bus routes in this corridor, with the highest ridership routes being Route 3 and Route 13. The 2025 regional plan does have 20 rapid bus routes planned for this corridor as well by implementation for the year 2035. We also have 6 microtransit zones, and microtransit is a rideshare type of service where you can call and get a ride like Uber, and an example of that would be the Southeastern Connect in Southeast San Diego. So there are 6 zones in our corridor area. And now I'll be going over some transit challenges. So like Paula mentioned, we have been getting feedback from the 2021 regional plan, the 2025 regional plan, recent community group presentations. Every time we get feedback for this area, we've been actually tracking it and keeping it because we knew that this plan was a project that we were gonna work on. And so we wanted to make sure that we collected that data so we could have a starting point. So some of the challenges we know of is that people want more frequent and on-time transit service. They want better bus stop amenities. So maybe you've been to a bus stop that doesn't have a bench, doesn't have shade, doesn't have lighting, there's no restrooms. People also want more route options. So maybe a route currently could have an additional bus stop that's a lot closer to you, and that would be your preference. availability of a bus route, maybe buses could run longer, or maybe there is a bus route that should be an overnight bus route as well because people really take it. So those are things that we've been hearing. We've also heard there's missing sidewalks when connecting to transit stops and stations, so that really doesn't allow people to, access transit. If maybe someone's in a wheelchair and they can't get to a transit stop because there's a missing sidewalk, so that deters people from taking transit that would otherwise take it. So we also looked at daily traffic volumes, or the total number of vehicles traveling on a roadway over the course of a typical day, to see where the highest concentration of traffic volumes are located along State Route 94. So we see that sections with more than 70,000 vehicles per weekday are primarily concentrated in the urbanized center of the study area. So that'd be like here, before decreasing as they get to Spring Valley, but then increasing again as they get to Humboldt Indian Village. And so some roadway challenges that we've heard is traffic congestion and delays, challenges around off-ramps and on-ramp connections as well. There's truck traffic in some areas, also on local streets sometimes. There's difficulty traveling north and south. We know State Route 94 is primarily a west-east connection, but people do have to go north and south. That sometimes is a challenge when there's a lot of traffic in those connectors. There's congestion on surface streets. We've probably all seen trying to get on the 94 on entrance, and then the local streets are all backed up. So that's also something we have heard, and we have heard the need to preserve local access as well. In the safety section of the existing conditions analysis, we use what we call the safety focus network and the systemic safety network as well. And these are all from the Vision Zero action plan. Vision Zero is a traffic safety initiative that rejects the idea that traffic crashes are inevitable and instead views them as preventable incidents. SANDAG's Vision Zero action plan is a data-driven action plan that illustrates where crashes occur and who bears the greatest burden, and then what strategies can be implemented to support the goal of zero traffic deaths. And so the systemic safety network within the area of analysis has more segments in the urbanized extent of the area of analysis. And just knowing this and knowing where that network is will help us support safety project developments in this corridor. And some safety challenges that we've heard that there's a lot of speeding on local roads. Sometimes that's because there's nothing preventing a car from not speeding, like the speed bump. So there's a lot of speeding in certain streets. Residents are really familiar which streets would benefit from those safety features. So again, that's the type of feedback we are looking for as well. There's some sidewalks that are missing connectivity. So maybe there is a sidewalk, but it stops. And then with the example I gave earlier, someone in the wheelchair maybe can't take a specific street because they know the sidewalk ends at a certain point. There's also general safety concerns like lack of lighting, crossing infrastructure, the need for more road maintenance or potholes are prevalent. So that's something that we have heard as well. And then we also looked at resilience. So to plan for resilience, or the ability of the corridor to respond to challenges, we took a look at different hazards in the area of analysis, and one of them, there's an example of heat and wildfire. We know that the corridor has high severity zones, particularly near Balboa Park, and that's, people are like, Balboa Park, and that's because there's canyons in that section, but there's also higher zones in East County as well. Even though there are fire stations, so those are the blue dots, they are sparser in the eastern side, and that's where there's more fire hazard severity zones. So knowing those challenges is helpful to us as well. And then next slide. So resiliency challenges that we've heard is air quality and noise pollution, maybe specific streets located to highways or other noisy areas. The need for emergency evacuation, like in the map we just saw, there's fire stations, but not that many, and in those areas particularly, there is that need. There's also flooding risks, so some areas experience a lot of flooding when it rains. Maybe certain streets aren't equipped for rain with like the proper drains. We've also heard that there's water backups from storm water drains as well, and we all saw the floods that occurred. Different communities were affected differently, but that is something that we've also heard as being a challenge. And now I will turn it over to Rachel to talk about stakeholder and public engagement and how y'all can get involved. Thank you.
Thanks. Go to the next slide. Just 2 more slides, and then we're almost done. Thank you. So the project is about a year long, and we're in the phase 1 of outreach, which actually ends kind of on this Sunday, where we're trying to collect as much feedback as we can from the public. Sandag has a lot of data, but we need to supplement that with people's lived experiences, and you all know your community so much better than any data can represent. So we're really trying to hear from everyone in the community on specific intersections and traffic patterns that data may not be reflected in our plans. So then we're going to come back out to the public in the fall and say, here's what we heard. Did we get it right? Are we missing anything? We have kind of some proposed draft solutions, but there will be another opportunity to sense check those and to make sure that all the feedback we heard was reflected. We're going to groups like yours. Last night we were at the Hummel-Dolzera community planning group. We're trying to get out there as much as we can and just let people know about the opportunity to give us their feedback. And then after that second round of outreach, we'll have one more where we show our draft final draft. And that'll be the last opportunity for community input, and then the CMCP will be submitted to the state after that. You can go to the next slide. So it's always a challenge to centralize feedback, right? Like you've given Get It Done reports, and you talk to your council members, and you're feeling like you're saying the same thing over and over again. Sandag's probably heard it from you a few times. But it's really helpful to centralize this feedback in one place so we can hear from everyone at once. And we have a portal, and the next slide will have a QR code for that. But on this website, if you want to scan this, there's a interactive mapping tool where you can zoom in and drop a pin and say there's a pothole in this intersection, or this should be a 4-way stop, or it's really bright at this time of day, you can't see the stoplight, things like that we might not be completely aware of. And then so far we have, I think, over 1,000 survey respondents, and we're hoping to just get more and more as we can. So save this QR code and share it in any way that you'd like, and if we can provide you a toolkit or anything to help spread the word, we're happy to do that. Yeah, we'll get those sent out then. And our project email is on the next slide. We have a phone number if you want to leave us a voicemail. Any way that you'd like to get involved or tell us about your experiences, we'd love to hear them. So our website is sandog.org/SR94, and there's more information on there. And with that, we thank you for having us, and we'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Is there anybody at this time that has any questions for them? I mean, a lot of it's self-explanatory, and of course, we all need to go take the survey. So hold on, let me get over here to Richard.
We're streaming, so it has to be, your question has to be.
And just a reminder, samples here of the carne asada quesadillas.
Hi, could you bring the traffic trips per day chart back up that showed 94 and 125? That was an interesting chart.
Tell me when I get there.
Help me out here. Have we passed it?
I passed it? Okay. I think right there. That one? Next one.
And then it had the purple.
That one? There we go. Okay.
That's it? That's it? So 125 going south, how many trips per day is on that from 94 going south towards the Bonita area? Is that, I can't read that from here, is that
So that has estimated more than 70,000 daily trips on the website.
70,000 daily trips? Does it tell you which way, or is it just both ways?
It doesn't show which way right.
So the east side of our city gets 70,000 trips per day. And then over here past College, around College Grove, in that area, on this side, on the Lone Grove side, is that the same thing, 70,000 trips per day?
Right here?
No, it'd be further up. Be further up on the map. Nope, not that way. That's right up in there, yeah.
So this one is
So
between 40 to 70.
40 to 7, okay. Okay,
Yeah, that one is, the 125 does have a segment of 70,000.
okay. Thank you.
And that is important. And you know what? We would even love to see somebody, if you guys can help us, come back and talk about the work that will be done on that intersection change and everything. We would like to see that.
Okay.
Is there any, whoop? Yeah, yeah. Okay, hold on. Hold on, because nobody else can hear you online.
I just don't want to leave you hanging on that if we can't answer it. So that is a project that's in the work. Caltrans is working on that project, but we can put you in touch with their project manager. We work closely with them, but yeah, I'll put you in touch.
You can see we have people here who are very engaged and want to know things. Is there anybody else before? Oh, wait, here's Steve.
With the amount of traffic that you're showing, and with a lot of thought, I'm sure you guys and other people put in that, trying to use less vehicles, but really we're not. What are you guys doing to project the not part to make sure that we're not as congested? That amount going from Bonita to East County is huge, and when I look out my backyard and there's a delay, they all sit on the ramp. I mean, sit. My other question is, what do you do with, when she had the screen up, the concern of the fire areas out in Hamul you're showing, but we're now seeing fires everywhere. And in our city, a big concern is we can't really get out of our city if there's a fire, if we all start loading up cars because of this congestion here with the trolley. And then we have no exit or entrance on Palm, which you guys did offer us 25, 30 years ago, and we didn't take it. However, but now that we've grown and we're putting 5-story buildings up and more people are coming, when will we see more design for that better safety and implement and things like this freeway that you guys did a few years ago? It was a design of 10 or 15 years before. And then when it finally came, it was, it wasn't updated. It was really outdated, and we got an outdated freeway and entrance. Not blaming you guys, but these are the concerns that when we look at it, say, what are we doing to make sure, traffic is better? And are we? Are these other things that are not being worked on? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to take the first question. You can chime in if I miss anything. So you're asking, what are we doing to account for the fact there is more vehicles and more vehicle miles traveled, but we have to reduce vehicle miles traveled. So it is a requirement by the state. I believe we have to meet like a 19% reduction in vehicle miles traveled or greenhouse gas emissions. So we need strategies in this plan that are going to be as compelling as the car trip for people. And in theory, the regional plan is supposed to reduce the amount of actual people driving, but that's not realistic for everyone. So I think to that point, like we have to, provide competitive car trip options too, and build for more congestion and managed lanes and strategies like that that help ease the flow of traffic. And I don't think we have all those solutions quite yet. But
that's an honest answer.
Yeah.
And just to add on to that, we are also taking a look at some of the projects that the 2025 regional plan proposed for this corridor. And so those projects have performance measures tied to them, saying like this project will reduce VMT by this much amount. So we're going to be taking a look at those projects. Or VMT? Vehicles miles traveled. Sorry. Yeah. So we're going to be taking a look at like comparable projects already to be able to say like when we propose these type of projects, we know that they have this specific type of results. So we're going to be doing that comparison as well. And then to your point about the heat and wildfire, that's really important for us to know as well. And that's where the really the localized information that people provide, the comments are really useful to us because like you mentioned, the data will only tell us so much, but residents are the ones who are like, well, actually, if we were to have a fire in my neighborhood and I would try to get on the freeway, this street, I know it's always backed up. So it would be backed up even more as everyone tries to, use it as an evacuation route. We are taking a look at evacuation route studies that have been done for the corridor in general. So that's something that we are considering, not just in the eastern side, but that's where your comments will come in handy with that specialized, localized knowledge, because then we can say, okay, well, someone said this street, like let's take a closer look at what has been already maybe considered in a community plan or a city plan for that area. So those are really valuable for us.
I was just going to chime in because I know you're saying like, hey, the reality is that people are traveling more, there's more vehicle miles traveled. And something to keep in mind is we're looking at this from like the perspective of the entire corridor. So we recognize that different parts of the corridor, people in different parts of the corridor are gonna have different travel patterns, right? Further east you are, you're probably gonna have to drive more, you're gonna be on that higher end. Versus on the western end, like we could implement some bus rapid, some compelling choices that would really change the behavior. So not necessarily completely into Lemon Grove or for every person in Lemon Grove, but sort of looking at it from the perspective of an entire corridor.
Wait, hold on, because we're going to run out of time, because I do have to, okay, because I do have to get to my other one. And then for anybody who wants to have a better understanding of, like, what you see in the red, for us, that incorporates a lot of area that's referred to as urban wildlife interface. And that urban wildlife interface is our hills and our mountains. Like, this is wildlife urban interface over here behind you that we have a view of. And so those areas are a little bit higher for wildfires. And so when we're talking about that, that way you guys have an idea, you're filling out surveys. We like it, we need it. It also helps cool things, but we know it's a danger zone. So I am gonna wrap up questions. If anybody else has anything, other questions, hopefully you took down the information and we will make sure that we get it up on Revitalize Broadway's Facebook page soon. So thank you guys very much. A round of applause for Sandag. Thank you for coming back. And a big thing, again, you guys coming here, yes, Joe? Oh, yeah. We have a board back there, so if somebody wants to look at it.
Yeah, the board, so our virtual engagement tool has a map where people can drop comments in specific areas. So here we can do that, like in person. Yeah.
Go for it, guys. Drop some pins. Those are a big deal. I'm going to take a brief, quick shout out to our interim city manager right now who moved the first workshop for the downtown specific plan, because that really affects us also in everything that we're doing. So the first workshop originally was scheduled for today and they had moved it to tomorrow. So thank them very much for that, because this is important. And here's the flyer. So please consider going to this tomorrow. A lot of the things that they were saying are also important for this. All of this is a component to what we want to do for our downtown specific plan. So, oh yes, and the code and the stay connected and everything. So get involved. Make sure that you get all the other information. So thank you to Sandag. Wait, let's have some pictures. Let them go ahead and get it. And the next person we are having up, do you need to plug in? Can we unplug? Yeah. So this is Jorge, and Jorge is a data analyst. And one of the reasons that I invited a data analyst out is because government functions don't go off hunches, opinions, your thoughts, they go off of data. So that's why they do surveys, that's why they collect information, because data is what speaks. It speaks for everything from changes that are made to really politics, everything. Everything is about data. And so when we go to present something to the city, to a board, to anybody, you need the numbers behind it. And that is exactly what Jorge is gonna help us do today. So we'll let him get set up. Are you ready? Do you need more? Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you to the coalition. Thank you, guys at Sandag, for that presentation. You guys made almost 3/4 of the job for me, because I'm here to talk a little bit about data for sustainable development. And as Chelsea was saying, data is everywhere, and it's also becoming more and more the language of government, of development. But when we came in contact, I was having a conversation with people in the coalition, and I told them, like, yeah, the data is also how you get things done. And that's the conversation we had a week ago about how do we get this complex data and numbers, information, not on a professional level like they do, but how do we bring it down so that we can get things done in the day-to-day. So that's a little bit of what I'm gonna talk about. And honestly, 2/3 of the presentation I was gonna talk about like professional examples of how government uses data. but you guys did such a wonderful job. Like, you guys collect a lot of data from different sources, right? You guys collect surveys, you guys collect information from government, from industry, and you also have the markers and KPIs from other governmental organizations that become your goals. So I'm gonna try to talk more about how does this apply to a small development organization like the coalition, or even small businesses. How do we use data to get stuff done, and how or why, right? Like, why should we use data to get things done? Because organizations that embrace data make decisions faster and are more likely to reach their goals. People who've worked in marketing know also a lot about data, but how do we do it? How do we use data to make better decisions over time? With three different capabilities. One is making sure that we align goals to outcomes, so that if we're trying to reduce traffic, every decision we make should be like, how do we make less traffic happen, if possible. Two, having clear accountability. We should know who's responsible for what number in our organization. If not, if there's no accountability, nothing gets done. And then collect and use good data. Just try to get good information, act on good information, measure things, and measure them right so that you can keep track of your progress. So that's the gist of it. So the meeting agenda, why should we use data? The second part, I knew that you guys were going to be here, so I brought a case study in public-private transportation projects, how to use data in those, but you guys just did such a good job. And then I'm going to talk more about practical worksheets, like how do small business and small organizations can use or start using information to get things done. So why should we use data in our businesses, organizations? Because companies that are data-driven make 5 times more decisions than companies who do not. And what does that mean? If you make more decisions, you get more feedback. And if you get more feedback, you learn faster, right? So being data-driven is not more about like being a numbers nerd, although in some cases like mine it is. It's just about learning faster about the decisions we make and understanding feedback faster. And that leads to a lot of benefits in business. Data-driven companies do 20% more revenue, 10% more customer satisfaction, and 70% more revenue per employee. So the advantage of being a data-driven organization is huge. But not a lot of companies do it. Why not? Because 61% of companies can't even turn their information into an advantage, and 80% of companies don't trust the information that they have. So that's why it's so important to have good information, right? Yeah, if you have bad stuff in, bad stuff out. I'm not going to use the real word, but yeah, correct. Garbage in, garbage out. So having good information is super important. There's a lot of good examples of how government or the neighborhood organizations use data to improve things. We just went through a great example, but there's a global index of public transit performance. There's also crowdfunding, like the survey you guys are doing that you put the pin over. They've used technology like that in India for floods. There's technology like that for fires as well. So all that, it's just like using data and using also like the wisdom of the crowd to help us obtain more data and make better decisions. There's sustainability scores. There's a big project in Mexico to open up all government data so that companies can use it easier. There's the 15-minute city scores and global smart city platform. So there's a lot of examples of how data makes government smarter. It's funny, a lot of stuff that you guys showed. We've worked with similar data. So one of the questions that the coalition had for me is like, where do you get the data from, right? Like where do we start? Where do we get this information from? And one of the best sources is government. They have a ton of data on everything. So if you run a business or if you want to run a city project, going to the government and getting data is a very good source of information. Qualitative and quantitative research, surveys, and talking with people, right? Just simplifying it to this way. If you make questionnaires and you send them, you talk to people, you get a lot of good information. And also operations and industry data. If you're a business, like how many mugs have we designed here, right? That's a good operational information about how the place is doing, right? How many bookings do you have? How many people come to these events? How many cups of coffee do get served, right? So keeping track of operations is very important. And if you guys are in a certain industry, look for your industry data because they probably have a lot of information, benchmarks that you can use also to start like finding out new trends, right? If you have a good Mexican restaurant like Tenampa that gave us these great quesadillas, you also want to know what's next in that food innovation, right? Or how to operate a kitchen better, how do we reduce costs. The industry has a lot of information about that as well. So those are a few of the sources you can get for data. Yeah, so I went a little bit faster on that because I want to focus on this. And it's how do we get stuff done using data? Like, where do we start? How many people here own a company or are very involved with the performance of a company or are part of an organization that's responsible for its own success, to say in a way? There's quite a few of you. How many of you have ever seen or used an executive company scorecard? This is one of the most essential business tools that exist. And it's a very simple one, but it has a lot of good results if you use it right. So each business or each coalition or organization can be divided in different layers, right? In business, it can be finance, operations, marketing, sales, right? Here, it might be different types of projects that the coalition is doing. So that's one layer each. So for each layer, you should have one accountable person and just one accountable person for each so that it's clear who has the responsibility in the business, for example, of doing sales, or who's the responsible person for making sure that there's good operating margins, right? And then you should have one KPI, just one number. So when we talk about data and numbers, sometimes it's easy to get carried away with all the information there is. But the most valuable thing is to be able to reduce that information to single metrics, right? Like vehicle miles traveled, right? That's one metric that's very important, and there's probably one responsible person for getting that done, right? And then you have to have critical numbers, and that just means what does bad look like and what does good look like? You know, are we selling enough or are we not selling enough? And what does that mean in numbers? Are we painting enough mugs or are we not painting enough mugs? Are we fixing enough streets or are we not fixing enough streets? And then what's the result we get? And then a grade between the supervisor or supervisee or the leaders or the executive team of the company. It's a very easy way to keep track of how we are doing and understanding by the numbers if we're doing good or not. It's not an opinion anymore, it's data-driven. Okay, so how does this look for a coalition instead of a business, right? Like, how do we bring it down to what we are doing here and trying to improve different goals in the community, right? So instead of doing business goals, we thought like, okay, how can we do community goals? There should still be a person responsible, right? If you go to the mayor's office, I'm sure they have something similar to this, and there's very clear responsible people for various things, right? And then also like understanding, like, are we doing this well or are we not doing so well? So I took the liberty of organizing the Revitalize Broadway mission and objectives for the year to make an example here. So let's say our community goal is more community engagement. What's the goal? To organize 3 or more additional events on Broadway besides Bites on Broadway, right? So that's the goal. There's a person responsible. If we just do one event, we are not doing great, right? It means we did same as last year. You know, if we do 2 or 3, I think we did okay. If we do 4, we did well. So this way we can keep track with numbers of how we are doing, right? Cultural activation, more community art installations in the corridor. I couldn't know how many there are right now, right? So what does more mean? How many more? If we do 1 more, are we happy? If we do 10 more, does it mean we did great? how many, right? So it's very important to understand that. Sorry? Oh, no. It's okay, it's okay. We can update this. That's good. That's good. Urban understanding, the livability and walkability assessment, for example, another goal of the organization. If it doesn't get done, then it's bad. If it gets done, then we are good. Okay, so this is the most basic, the easiest way of using data to keep track of an organization or a business. And I'm going to introduce just one more layer of complexity, which is leading and lagging indicators, right? So we know the goal, what the goal is, but we also need to understand, one, if we are doing the right behaviors or creating the right incentives for the behaviors to happen, and then what are the results of our behaviors, right? So in this case, like understanding the normal or formal event proposals, for example, like, okay, we want to organize 4 different events. How many has the community proposed? 0. Then we are not doing great, or maybe there's 10. Okay, now we just need to figure out which ones to do, right? So if we keep track of the behaviors that lead to certain results that will eventually lead us to our goals, then we can make better decisions because we understand, like, oh, the problem is the behavior, or yeah, we are doing a lot of action, but we are not getting that many results. So that's the problem. We need to change the tactic. And then, like, we can talk about the strategy or like the actual numbers we want to track. So yeah, this is the very the easy and I mean the easy things are usually complex as well, right? But it's a way to track what we are trying to do, a way of understanding if we are being successful or not, and whether what we are doing is what we need to be doing, and the results we're having is the results we want to be having. So yeah, this is what I want to share with you guys, how to use data to accomplish things in community. And yeah, thank you. And if you guys have any questions, please do. Please.
And then I'll run.
Thank you, Chelsea.
This is fascinating. It seems like, though, a big part of it is coming up with what exactly are the community goals, and then what exactly are the metrics that you use to define success, and what exactly are the numbers you need to get to a success response. But it's a great tool. I don't know if anybody's looked at this before.
I looked at it because I got to see the program ahead of time. But this is one of the reasons we wanted to have him in, right? It's so basic. It's broken down to such a basic and easy format. Straightforward, something we can do, something we can find measurable. I mean, we are finally at a point where, what we're doing is now like bringing us in small amounts of money and stuff. Everybody who sat in here since the beginning knew we started with nothing. So now this is where we are. So that's why we brought in this information, because now we can start turning around and getting a little more serious and a little more defined and a little bit more ready for other action. And it's at the exact same time that we're also, as a city, looking at the downtown specific plan. So, this is it. This is how you guys learn how to figure out how to come back and bring this data to the city as well. So tomorrow night is very quick, but it's only workshop 1, and we've got more. But this is how you become an action citizen, because you know a very basic way now how to break it down. And then we'll make sure that scorecard is available to people. So, that will be there for you. And I have a question over here. Did you? I thought you raised your hand. Oh, okay. Is there anybody else who has a question? Okay, hold on. Let me get over here, Jacqueline.
Thank you for that. I love it. I used to work for the county, so I'm familiar with this type of presentation. But what I wanted to know is if he can come back again. And here's why. Because you talked about, like, this is the end result, right? This is the framework that we're going to use. But I think we need a little bit more on how to collect the data. What is the data, and what data points are we actually looking for that will help move the needle? So I'd love for him to come back.
Okay, and those are some of the things that we have to define. And so if you come back, remember, community goal, what we want, and then how we get there. So being able to keep that scorecard and go through things, but we will have you back because that's how valuable. And what I want you to know right now, Jorge, too, is what you have in here. We have people who are running for council. We have council. We have people on our planning commission. We have people in our historical society. We have like people from various groups that are here, and each one of us can all use this data. That's why it's important. And remember, he's also for hire, so he does have a business, and I don't know where his business thing is. But yes, so these types of information, this is how you become the citizen that becomes an action-oriented citizen, and we become an action-oriented group for making change, okay? So that's the importance. Is there any other questions? Okay, then thank you. Oh, wait, Manola. Manola, you look at that late hand.
You know me, I take a while before I get there. I think it would be important for us when he comes back. We had 2 sessions where we listed all the things that we wanted to do, we categorized them, we did great stuff. Now it needs to go on here. And when he comes back, he can talk to us about how to count, what to count, why you would count this as opposed to that. When we have this as a goal, what is a critical number? Well, they're already weighted, so yes. But my point is that we already have, don't think that this isn't something we already haven't done. We've already done this. We just need to put it in a format that allows us to all track.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. I'd be happy to come back and.
I don't think Jorge realized what he was walking into when he walked into here. And a quick shout out to Jules before she had to step back. Jules is the one who helped make this connection with us with Jorge. So, a quick thank you for Jules. She was still helping as she was trying to step back. So thank you, Jorge. Make sure if you have a card, leave it on the table. For anybody else that helps. So please make sure you do that. Okay, we've got just a few more things to get through, and I'm going to pass off the mic to Serafina in case there's questions. And I'm going to grab the other one. All right, here we go. So the next thing on our agenda, and this is going to be an important one, is Anna's coming around and she's handing out some information. So at our next coalition meeting, we will have the Sheriff's Department here. And we really want to have our questions so that we are collecting data focused on our focus area around Broadway. But we want to go ahead and be able to collect these questions so that we can help present them something, because if we want them to come back with data and figures, they need to see it ahead of time so that they know what questions can answer. And then we take them all and we consolidate them. So when you get these forms, take a look and put in, there's up to 3 questions that we can bring to the sheriff so we can make sure that they bring information back to us. So that is a very important one. So thank you all. And if you don't get one, come blame Serafina.
Hey, I printed 40. You guys are growing. So
Yes,
never know.
we are growing nicely. If you could fill them out and leave them here tonight, that helps me, guys, because I want to be able to have this filtered through and ready so that we can pass it off. I want to give you a quick recap on art. Raise your hand if you came out and walked for Art Walk at all or Bites on Broadway. Thank you so much for coming out and looking. A little bit of feedback. I spoke with the art teacher, and she says that the kids just keep talking about coming out with their families and seeing the artwork. So in my book, that is successful right there. The biggest gauge of happiness is our children who are very happy. Yes. Oh, she is a coalition person, and she could talk on a microphone.
To stand up and be.
Woohoo! There's a wireless.
Okay, so things about the business owners. There were 3 business owners who said, "Oh, I didn't know. I want it next year." So we've expanded already the number of stores who want to do it. And since it was so successful, we need to make a greater effort to make sure we have more stores involved.
And the other thing I got back is I had a couple business owners say that we might need to do it for a whole week because there were still people who were out here trying to look at art. So instead of a weekend, we do a whole week. So that was really good. Thank you all. And thanks for supporting kids.
So I want to say thank you to Chelsea and to Joe. I think Joe's here somewhere. In the back. They coordinated to kick off the student art walk. They had the principals of all 6 of our schools meet here the first time outside of a district building, which was kind of cool. They were out in the community. Hearing their reports was so super impressive. I was just really impressed with their reports. And then they all, with the superintendent, walked down and did the art walk. And it was just a really great collaboration of businesses, of Revitalize, of the school district, and the neighborhood. So it was really great. Thank you.
And that's what our goal is, right? Yes, go back to Joe. Because he did collaborate on that.
And I would say I physically walked with Chelsea and I seen her visit every business, right? So I think it's one of those things where you don't know the success, and when they see families walking in businesses and they're like, oh shoot, I should have told her yes, I think that's the part, right? Yeah. And the impact that happened across Broadway for that weekend. So I'll say again, thank you to Ann, and y'all, we need to give Chelsea a huge round of applause.
You have no idea how much work that was.
When I tell you, her husband, they're mounting pictures and
brother.
ordering stickies and coloring on sidewalks, y'all.
Yes.
So thank you for pulling us all together, Alyssa, yourself, the district, the Broadway. It was a great experience. Thanks.
That's awesome. And then I'm going to go real quick to business group. Do we have any updates that anybody wants to provide out? Seraphina's behind you right there.
Hello, I'm Stan. I'm the president of the business group.
And a co-chair.
And the co-chair of Revitalize Broadway. I'm just going to let everybody know that on June 10th, we have a business watch. It's kind of like a neighborhood watch with the sheriff's department. We are also going to help Jules and Brianna Beers trying to open up the rec center for adult activities. And we're just looking forward to keep growing the business group in the community and how we can serve you guys better.
Awesome. Thank you. On June 10th.
5
You mean
p.m.
where?
at 10 p.m.
Right. Oh, it's
From 5 to 5:45 here at the neighborhood.
okay. And then the last thing I'm going to remind people is if there is an event that you want us to get out to other people, we have an event slip on the back. Please fill that out. I'm going to have everybody remain seated. We are going to shut off our public comment or the public streaming, because if you weren't here, you do not get to have this information. So sorry, next time be at our coalition meeting. Jack, can you hear me? Okay, go ahead and shut off streaming and we'll go on to the other part. Let me know when you're done.